welcome back to episode 4 of the MVP podcast series. I am Mia, your host, and I just kind of wanted to start off this episode just to acknowledge how special and fun this journey has been for me creating this podcast series for MVP. I am so grateful to have had the opportunity to create this podcast about topics that are so important and growing really fast in the realm of athletics. So now for today's episode, we're going to kind of be shifting the conversation from how athletics, injuries, coaches can affect your mental health and kind of transition into something that doesn't really get talked about as much, in my opinion, and that is the role of the parents/family and how that role can influence the child's athletic experience into college. So let's just start at the beginning. Many parents decide to put their kids into sports, which is a great thing. Sports teach children discipline. They teach them the importance of teamwork, having fun, making friends. The list goes on and on and on. If you were to ask a college student what age they were when they started playing their sport, there is a very good chance that it was at a very young age. Personally, I started playing volleyball when I was 10 years old, and I know many other college athletes who started around that age or even younger. It has actually been found through research that child sport participation peaks between the ages of 10 and 13 and then consistently declines until the age of 18. So you might be wondering, why is there this decline? Well, there are a couple studies out there that look at the dropout of young athletes. And one of those studies was a study of 50 swimming dropouts between the ages of 10 and 18. And in this study, it was found that the two main reasons that people dropped out were there are other things to do and there's a change of interest, with other reasons being not as good as I wanted to be, not enough fun, wanted to play another sport, didn't like the pressure, boredom, didn't like the coach, training was too hard, and not exciting enough. Now, that study by Gould et al. Was conducted in 1982, but a more recent study with similar findings was by Rottensteiner et al. In 2013, which looked at more than 500 youth sports dropouts in soccer, ice hockey, and basketball. This study found that other things to do and a decline in excitement were the two main reasons that most young athletes withdrew, with the other reasons being not able to be with my friends, not enough team spirit, and wanted to play another sport. I find all these reasons really interesting for youth dropout rates, but let's specifically look at didn't like the pressure. Now, while it isn't specified what the pressure was, it can be assumed that the source of this pressure might have been coming from the young athlete's parents. Now, the role of the parent in a child's athletic experience is extremely influential. And how the parent acts, whether or not the child sees it, can have a negative or positive effect on the child athlete's experience and perceptions of their sport, and therefore their decision to withdraw. For the focus of today's episode, we're going to be talking about how that parent influence throughout the childhood can carry with a collegiate student athlete in their college athletic years. So like I said before, many parents decide to put their kids in sports at a young age, which again is a great thing for many reasons. However, issues can arise within the sport throughout a child's life, ultimately impacting their perceptions and experience with their sport. Well, think about how much time and money and attention is given to sports. As a young child, the time and the money aspect of things doesn't really register fully for many people, but for the adults and parents in the situation, this time and money can be a huge added stress to the family dynamic. Many parents do see sports as an investment, whether that be looking at it through the lens of, I want my child to develop into a healthy, well-rounded human being, or through the lens of, I want my kid to play D1 sports or college sports in general. Many parents also believe that their child's success is a reflection of themselves and their parenting, and may become over-involved with the sport due to that reason. Now, this extreme investment and involvement of the child's sport can really affect the kid's development as well as their perceptions of their sport. For instance, in a 2016 study by Dunn et al., found that the greater financial investment a family was making for the child's sport participation, the less the child enjoyed participation, the more parental pressure was perceived by the child, and the less the child was committed to continuing their involvement with the sport. Some other negative interference examples come from a 1995 study by Streen, finding that parents coaching their child from the sidelines in ways that contradict what their coach said, encouraging their child to fight, or saying vicious things to other players, all negatively impacted the child athlete. Needless to say, the athletic experience of a child can become a central focus of the parent-child relationship, and that focus can shift from childhood into young adulthood as a college student. Many college students today stay in touch with their parents on a day-to-day basis. Parents serve as an extremely strong support system, especially for a young adult experiencing college and everything that comes with that academically, socially, financially. You get the idea. And again, they can serve as a really good support system for the child athletically. However, something to be noted here is parental pressure. Because parents care and want to be involved with their child and are likely extremely proud of the fact that their child is even a collegiate athlete, they might center most of their conversations around sports with their kids. Now, this can be very stressful for the student athlete who not only has all this pressure coming in from their sport, but also, again, the pressure that comes from being an emerging adult in a new setting. For some student athletes, the parents' interests in only what is going on sport-wise can really put a lot of pressure on the student to make them act in ways to please their parents. In a study done by Megan Parietti on the parental influence of academic and athletic behaviors of college student athletes, personal accounts of collegiate student athletes were shared, specifically student athletes dealing with parental pressure, such as one student explaining that his mom would compare her situation in college as a full-time student employee raising 3 kids with a 3.9 GPA and use this to pressure her kid about why he was receiving a B instead of an A in class while participating in a sport. And the student being interviewed explained that this left him feeling pushed. Another shared example include an athlete explaining that her father would say things such as, "People are going to pass you if you don't keep working," when she said that she did not want to go take extra reps that day. What I really find interesting about this study and what it notes is many of the student athletes interviewed did not use the word pressure, although they felt that they were being pushed in different ways. And overall, it was found that the athletes preferred to use the word push instead of pressure. So this just kind of goes to show that some college athletes don't really realize the extent to which their parents' involvement is affecting their experience in the sport, and their parents' involvement is making them feel pressured. When I was going through the decision of whether or not I wanted to step away from the sport I had known and loved and played for half my life, one of the things I felt the most guilt about was letting my family down. They had invested so much time and so much money into my experience with volleyball. And the reason that I attended Linfield was because I had the awesome opportunity to play volleyball. Thankfully, my family was extremely supportive of my decision to step away from the sport because they put my needs above their wishes and never once made me feel guilty for anything financially or anything like that. I'm so grateful for that because I do understand that this is not how it goes for many student athletes who are deciding to step away from their sport or who did step away from their sport. For any student athletes listening that may be struggling with their relationship with their sport or their relationship with their parents, I think it's really important to really take some time and reflect on your experience with your sport and decide if you are playing for you or if you are playing due to some sort of external pressure being placed on you. In addition, I think it is extremely important to uphold an open communication relationship with your parents or family, which I know is easier said than done for many people. But having this open communication and being able to set boundaries with your parents' sport involvement, especially as you grow into more of an adult, it can possibly make a difference in your experience with your sport. Say, for instance, you as the athlete love calling your parents a couple times a week on the phone, but then you start to realize that all they really want to talk about is your performance at the game last week, or how practice went this morning, or when is your coach going to give you more playing time. Let's say these types of conversations are kind of starting to drive you nuts, and all you want to do is talk about anything other than your sport. In this situation, instead of trying to please your parents by answering all these questions that you just don't want to answer right now, try to respectfully explain like, hey, I don't want to talk about this right now, this week, or ever, whatever it may be for you, and really work on setting boundaries, and maybe set a boundary saying, I will talk to you about this when I am ready or want to talk to you about this. Again, it is really case by case here, and I totally understand that it is easier said than done for many people to have this open communication relationship with their family. But in my opinion, it is never too late to create or change a relationship into being more communicative, and it is absolutely never too late to set boundaries, even if those boundaries are with your own parents. And as parents, when your kid is telling you what they want and what they need, listen to them and respect those boundaries. Yes, I'm sure you are excited about your child's experience in the sport. You want them to succeed and you're seeing your investment pay off. But you just have to keep in mind everything that the child, the student athlete is going through and give them some grace. So kind of going off of that, I thought it'd be kind of fun and interesting to leave some pointers for parents of athletes. Because if you're a student athlete listening, one day you might be a parent to a little athlete, and it's important to keep these things in mind. So these pointers all come from Weinberg and Gould's Foundations of Sport and Exercise Psychology. And the first one is be supportive of the participation of your child, but do not pressure them. Next is help the child set realistic performance goals. Help your athlete meet the responsibilities of the team or the coach. Remain in the spectator area. Let the coach be the coach. Again, do not coach your athlete during a contest or competition. Cheer for your team, not just your kid when they're in. Show interest and enthusiasm with the child's sport participation. Control your emotions. And help when asked by coaches or officials. Now, those are just a list of little things that can make a big difference. And there are definitely other ways to be a good parent to a little athlete. I just think these are really important to keep in mind because the parent influence is so strong on a child's development, and being mindful of what you are doing as a parent can really make a difference. So a little bit of a shorter episode today. I do really hope that this episode helped any athlete who's struggling with their relationship with their sport or their relationship with their parents or both. And any parents listening, I hope you gain some insight either for your little athletes or for your college athletes, because again, it is never too late to change or create a more communicative relationship, and never too late to set boundaries. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, keep in mind if the sport is filling your cup. One of the biggest things for me was deciding whether or not my cup was being filled from the sport or if it was coming from other reasons. So I'm really excited for the last episode. I think it's going to be a good one. I also just wanted to note that I will be putting all of the references that I made to the studies in the description. So if you're interested in looking more at those, please feel free. And I will see you next time. Thank you. Bye.